Evening, Leandro. Good evening. I hope you can hear me. Evening, everybody. Hope you can hear me. I hope everybody can hear me. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Hello, Clariska. Testing. Okay, it seems like you can hear me, or do you have a question? Endo, do you have a question, or can you hear me? I hope you have a question. Or are you testing? Let me see if my mic is on. It seems like my mic is on. Why didn't it charge? Oh well. Let me charge quickly. Can you hear me? Am I being heard? Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, Keenan. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to switch on my camera soon. Let's give a minute or two for people to arrive. It is 7 and we'll start soon. And I have a very special webinar for you tonight. People are joining. I'm going to give a couple of minutes. Let's say let's start 5 past because I do believe it's a very valuable webinar for tonight. And I would like as much people as possible to be here from the beginning. But if by 5 past more people haven't arrived, then I'll go ahead. And please feel free. You can ask questions in the chat. The more you interact, the more valuable and the more value I'll provide in the session. Because if I see you are learning and you are interacting, then it makes me excited to give you more than what I plan to do. So please, can everybody see the screen? The property masterclass, how to buy a property with no money, without the bank, and without having a clue, even if you don't know. Thank you, Ando, so you can see. And I'm going to show you how you can avoid a 300,000 Rand mistake. So thank you everybody. Thank you for the interactions. So this webinar is kind of a secret. It's lessons that I've learned over the years, but you can feel free to tell other people about it. It's not that secret. In 2 minutes, let's give it another 1-2 minutes. Whoever joins late then is late, so they'll have to miss. I think there was a lady who joined too early. Let me see if I can see who it was. Okay, now let's start. I gave everybody enough chance. Let me share my camera. So welcome everybody to tonight's webinar. It's a property masterclass, and it's actually, to me, it's going to be very valuable. And I really hope, and I believe that it's going to add immense value to anybody who still wants to buy a property, or that has bought a property and maybe wants to buy more property, maybe as an investment or as a personal home. So feel free to ask questions. I'm going to answer each and everybody's question. And if you guys would have it, then even if it takes 3 hours, I'll answer all the questions. And that's how passionate I am about property, and also property as an investment. So, who here has ever wanted to buy a property but thought it was too expensive, or that they did not have enough money, or that they would not qualify with a bank, or maybe that they were too young? Whoever has thought of that, by show of hands, you can raise your hand or you can react. Because if nobody has ever wanted to buy a property, then I don't think I need to do the session. Thank you everybody. Thank you so much. Now, how many of you would love to see a proven legal way to purchase a home or an investment property without costing you a cent? Now, who of you would like to know that? So there are a couple of people. Excellent. So as long as you would like to see it, then I'll be showing you. So even if you have bad credit, even if you have no formal education, and even if you know nothing about property. So I have dogs. I hope they're not disturbing. Can you hear me? Maybe I should just close the window quickly. I am back. Can you hear me? Just a question to see if you can hear me, if everything is still working. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So yes, even if you have bad credit, even if you have no formal education, and even if you know nothing about property, I'm going to show you how to do it legally and how to purchase a property without costing you a cent. Thank you once again for everybody that came out tonight. I appreciate taking the time that you took tonight to put out an hour or maybe an hour and a half to listen to tonight's webinar. I really do appreciate everybody being here and who made it, even those who came a little bit late. Now, why is tonight's webinar so important? The reason why it's so important is because I've realized that there's one thing that's keeping us back from achieving success or greatness. So the biggest thing that's keeping us back is our mindset. And that is where everything starts. So for tonight, I would like you to have an open mind. A lot of what I'm going to say tonight might not resonate with you immediately. You might not understand it, or you might not believe that it's possible. But I want you to have an open mind and to really let your mind guide you to think of how you could possibly implement this, and how can you implement this not only in or how you can implement it in your own life. So it's very valuable information, and it is possible. You can believe me, it is possible, and I'll show you how I've done it as well. It's based on my real world experience. So it's not based on fiction. It's based on what I went through and a property that I bought. You do not need money. You do not need experience. You do not need a bank. You do not need a bond. It's a step-by-step system and guidance. It's not just motivation. It's more than just motivation. It will also eliminate your biggest risk when you purchase a property. If you follow these steps, you will eliminate the biggest risk, and you can start immediately. This is not something that can only be started once something happens. You can really start immediately. If you have been looking for a way to break free from financial constraints, or create a home for your children, or maybe you would like to leave one or multiple properties as a legacy without the banks, without the risk, or without experience, I need you to listen very closely now. But who is this for? Who is this for? If you want to buy a property, but you don't have the money, this session and tonight's session is going to be for you. If you are tired of relying on the banks or anybody else for that matter for assistance, this is going to be for you. If you want to be a property investor, but you don't know where to start, this is definitely going to be for you. And if you want to own a home, either to raise children in or to call your own, this is going to be for you. And if you are looking for a proven method that will make that home yours and not somebody else's, this is going to be for you. And if you are serious about creating a better financial future without debt, then this is going to be for you. Who is this not for? So this is not a get rich quick scheme, right? It's not for anybody who's not willing to take action. And if you need permission to go ahead, then it's not going to be for you. If you need your boss's permission or somebody else's permission to go out and do what I tell you to do, is just not going to be for you. It's designed for people that starts with nothing, with no credit, with no bank, with no capital or previous experience. So I have really designed it for people starting from level 0. It's a step-by-step, easy to follow process, and I make things as easy as possible to follow. I want to make these steps so easy so that you can get results and not worry about the process or the system or the lessons. Now, the biggest risk that you do have when purchasing a property is losing that property. If you follow what I teach you tonight, it will eliminate all that risk of you losing your home to the bank or to the whoever lent you the money. If you are ready to purchase a property that gives you real financial freedom, I am going to show you exactly how to do it. Is there anyone who would like to know how to get out of this rat race using property? Any one of you would like to know how to use property? Perfect. There are people wanting, because if you, thank you for the interactions. Thank you. I appreciate. Now, here's what you'll get if you stay until the end. For all of you that stay on the webinar until the end, I will give you the following. So I am going to give you for certain a property buyer's essential checklist. So before you buy a property, there's things that you need to know, and there's a checklist, that you need to go through. So I'll be providing you with that essential checklist. I'll also be providing you with your own or my personal growth calculator. So it's a calculator that I created that helps you determine the growth of yourself so that you know which investments are good investments and which investments are bad investments. But I'm going to provide that to you as well. I'm also going to provide to everybody, everyone who has debt, the debt eradication masterclass that I had. I also had a live session like this on how to pay off all your debt lightning fast. Right? So I'll also be providing everybody who stays until the end. Now, if you apply what I teach you tonight, I can promise you that you will change your future and your life. But I only ask you to go out and apply what I teach you today. It's no use of knowing these things, but you do not go out and apply. And I know because I've been there. I've been in the situation where I do not want to apply because I'm afraid of making mistakes. Now, that's our biggest downfall. And it comes down to the mindset. Unless you apply, you won't be learning. If you make an excuse in regards to mistakes that you're going to make, it's going to keep you from improving and reaching your true potential. So apply, apply, apply. And these are the barriers to success, because every time you dream of something or if you set a goal, sometimes doubts creep in. Now, I want to share a story with you of me when I was in Cape Town. I met, and I'm not sure, I cannot say he's a millionaire, but he drove a Porsche. So I believed he was a millionaire. But he came from another country in Africa. I'm not entirely sure which country he came from. But he came to South Africa with 50 Rand. And I asked him, but how did he make it? How did he get to where he was? And he told me, Rowan, the biggest obstacle he had was to overcome this voice in his head when he had to apply, for instance, for a job. And that voice told him that you weren't qualified to get that job. You're not good enough to get that job. And he said the most important thing is to overcome that voice that tells you you're not good enough, you don't have the money, you won't qualify, you're young enough, whatever the case may be. So whenever we have a dream and whenever we have a goal and we set ourselves a big goal, normally the doubt starts to creep in. But the doubt is going to keep you from achieving what you really want to achieve. Like, for instance, if you tell yourself, I do not have the money or I do not have a big enough deposit, if you're afraid you won't qualify for a bond, if you're afraid people will reject you, if you don't know where to begin, those are just doubts that's going to keep you from achieving, ultimately purchasing a property for no money, because it's all in the mind. And if you can overcome that voice, it's going to have a massive impact on your life. So you need to create and find this new mindset. And by tonight, I hope you realize that you don't need money. You need the right method. You don't need a bond. You don't need the banks, because you need the right skills in the right order, and you need that right mindset. You don't need to figure it out alone. You can follow steps of somebody who's done it before, and you'll be able to achieve it as well. It's just a recipe. Nothing you are born with. You are born with certain stuff, but you're not born with being a salesman. You're not born being a property investor. It takes time, and it takes you to follow certain steps in a certain order, and then you'll be able to become a person that can purchase a property that costs nothing. But You need to find tonight, and I hope by tonight you realize that it is possible. Because if it becomes possible in your mind, the impossible is going to start looking possible. And then the opportunities are going to arrive and to come. And months down the line, after you've realized that it is possible, you're no longer going to be worried about being able to afford your rent or your bond. You're no longer going to be worried that you will fail or not be able to cater for your family. And you will no longer worry that you were missing out on opportunities that you always see other people seem to have, but it doesn't seem to come your way. Now, not the government, not your job, not the economy, not your boss. Nothing but your ability to apply and learn is going to help you achieve success. It's all in your ability to learn and apply what you have learned. Now, I want to ask you a question you don't need to answer, but are you too afraid to start? But I want you to think of what are the consequences if you do not start. If you do not start today, if you do not apply these things, if you're going to wait until you have a good credit, what consequences does that have on your situation, on your future? Please think about that. Now, my name and I'm Rowan Karulis, and my story started when I worked at Saldanha Steel in the Western Cape. Now, because I was working 12-hour shifts, and at work I had a work injury and I broke 3 of my fingers. Because of that incident, I at that moment probably thought it was the worst moment in my life. But I soon realized, or after, not probably soon, but I realized if it wasn't for that injury that I received or that I got, I wouldn't have made the decision to leave that workplace. So it was a physical workplace, and I decided not to leave it just like that. I decided to go and apply for other jobs, especially in the financial industry, because I was liking finances. I was reading books about finances. And before that happened, I read a book by Robert Kiyosaki, uh, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it was there where my love for property and investments began. But because of that injury, I started looking for other job opportunities, and I applied, and eventually, actually, I got a position at a company. But during that time, I also realized that because I wanted to invest in property, I needed to know more about property. I needed to invest in myself, and I found an ad, and I believe it was in the newspaper, and I registered for one of these sessions. It was also a free session. And after that free session, my mind was open and I realized that it was possible. And I booked, because he also had a seminar, but I had a weekend seminar, and I booked a flight to Joburg, and I went to go and meet who is now my mentor in Joburg, and I had a session, and there's a lot of students, and we learned about property and how to purchase what he called a free property. So everything started there for me when I realized, Rowan, it's possible that you can purchase a property that costs you nothing. Then I came back to Cape Town, and I started looking and applying what I learned. But I must tell you, initially it was a mess. I started looking and I did calculations and I could not find what he called a free property. And I was looking and looking and looking. And I realized that because I did not have the right skill set, I did not have the competencies. Or actually, I spoke with my mentor and he said, Rowan, because you don't have the competency, it's not going to be as easy. And because you haven't seen one of these free properties before, your mindset hasn't seen these properties before. But then I said to myself, but okay, maybe I can get a property with a 60% growth, because that's much better than a 12% growth that an investment can give me. So I did some calculations and I came across a property that was a very good deal. just when I thought I couldn't get this free property, I got a property that was the best deal that I probably have had to date. But after I purchased the property, the tenant, because there was a tenant, the owner was selling the property, but the tenant didn't want to move out. So there was my first problem, or my first experience of a tenant not wanting to move out. So I purchased the property, but I had to revert the sale and reverse the sale because the tenant did not want to leave the property. But I had massive lessons in that property that I purchased, but still I didn't find this. Then I had a opportunity because there was an auction and I could get a property for probably next to nothing. I went to an auction, but I was late at the auction because it wasn't in town, and I missed my second property as well. And then the third property came along, and it wasn't in the best area. It didn't have the appeal that most people are looking for when it comes to property. But that was my first free property that I purchased. But it all began because I invested in myself and I decided to take action and apply. And because of that injury and because of me going to that course, I could purchase myself my first free property. And by the way, those of you that know me, or that know me, and those of you who don't, I did not complete my studies after school. I did do engineering, but I didn't complete. I failed after 3 years, or I dropped out after 3 years, I should say. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because if I can do it, if I can buy a property costing me nothing, you can do too. Believe me, you can do too. Now, there's 7 essential laws of home buying. And who of you would like to see what these 7 laws are? And then I'll go into one, because this is going to teach you how to purchase a property costing you nothing. Thanks, Miso. Thank you, Endo. Thank you. Now, Albert Einstein said, we cannot solve our problem with the same thinking we used when we created them. I want you to remember this. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Now, the problem, if you just keep being reminded, you cannot solve your problem of not being able to purchase a property for R0 with the same thinking that you used that created that problem. Now, the problem is as follows. The South African Reserve Bank. Now, they have private shareholders, if you don't know. The South African Reserve Bank borrows money to the bank. The bank borrows money to me and you, the consumers, and we have to repay the bank, and the bank repays the South African Reserve Bank. But the bank does not have that money. He gets the money from the South African Reserve Bank. But the South African Reserve Bank prints the money. They also do not have the money. And the only thing that they want us to qualify for a loan. They want us to have a high income, because if we have a high income, we qualify for more. And the bank uses that proof, that income payslip, and the bank statements. They use that to show the South African Reserve Bank that we have a person that can qualify. Please borrow us this amount of money. Now, I want you to think, if this is the system that we are in, who benefits from purchasing a property or anything for that matter with debt? I want you to think, who benefits by purchasing anything with debt? Firstly, the banks. Secondly, the South African Reserve Bank. So it's not in their interest to teach you what I'm going to teach you tonight. It's not in their interest because it's not going to make them any money. And that is the problem. They created the problem. You need a loan to purchase a property. Because of that reason, and because you have that problem and way of thinking, you are not going to solve that problem if you keep that way of thinking. So you need to change your way of thinking, and I hope tonight will change your way of thinking. Also, the government also benefits if you earn a high salary, because if you earn a high salary, firstly, you can qualify for more with the bank. So it's in their interest for you to qualify for more. The banks or the government also want you to have a higher income, because then you can get a bigger loan and then you can pay more taxes, and you can pay more taxes on your property. So it's also in the government's interest for you to go make a loan with the bank. And for interest sake, the South African Reserve Bank also borrows money to the government. Now, here are the steps in order to secure a property, or also known as the 7 laws to purchase a property, right? So you first need to do the calculation. Then you need to budget for certain expenses, certain important expenses. You need to plan for the worst case scenario. You need to confirm if the seller is who he says he is, if that is the seller, if he is the owner. You need to negotiate. You need to put your offer in writing, and then you need to present that offer. No use you do all of this, but you forget to give that offer to somebody. So just some definitions before we get into the meat. Is a surplus is the money you have left after all your necessities have been paid, right? That's what a surplus is. I'll be speaking about surplus soon. My personal growth rate is the growth rate you want on your investment to achieve your goal. So your personal growth rate is what you require to achieve whatever you want to achieve. This is your growth rate. The property growth rate is the growth rate of your property or of your investment. And yield is the income you earn from an investment, right? So just some clarity in terms of growth on investment. When money flows in to something, or and money flows out of something, you can determine the growth. So because, say for instance, you invest 10,000 Rand, and after 10 years, you get out 100,000 Rand. Your growth or your internal rate of return equals 25.89%. So that's how you determine the growth. You have to have money coming in and you have to have money going out, and then you can determine the growth. Now, when I speak about the growth on a property, I'm not speaking about the capital appreciation. I'm speaking about with a property, money goes in. There's rental, there's a property, the appreciation is also money coming in, and tax is money coming in. But there's also money going out. Insurance, maintenance, rates and taxes. That's money going out. So you can also calculate the growth on a property. You can still hear me? Just a check, because I heard my headset die. Thank you, Miso. Thank you. Now, law number 1 is do your calculations. And I want to show you the importance of the laws. And because I don't have a lot of time tonight, I won't be going into these laws in depth. But I have an offer at the end of tonight's session for those of you interested in having these laws set out as easy to follow steps and going into more depth. So law 1 is do your calculation. So let's say Ruth is 30 years old and she's frustrated with the ever rising cost of living and fed up living paycheck to paycheck. So Ruth decides she wants to retire within 10 years and spend her free time with her family and also start the business that she's always wanted. So she needs an income of 30,000 Rand in order to retire in 10 years' time. What calculation does she have to do? And let me show you. You can see the spreadsheet. Can you see my spreadsheet? Thank you, Bronwyn. Thank you. So when you start looking for a property, you need to do your calculation, and this is what Ruth's calculation will look like. So Ruth wants to earn 30,000 Rand. She would like, she has to pay a tax of 25%, and she's currently 30 years old. But she would like to retire in 10 years' time, which means she will be 40, and she could live up to the age of 80. Now, if we summarize, okay, she's 30, she'll live to 80, she has 40 years after retirement, and she has 40 years, she has 10 years, sorry, to retirement. 30 to 10, she has 10 years to retirement, she has 40 years after retirement. The inflation rate is 6%. She wants to earn 30,000 Rand. She wants to earn 30,000 Rand at a 25% tax rate. So she will need to earn 40,000 Rand before tax. Everybody still with me? So if Ruth earns 40,000 Rand, she pays her tax, and then she's left with 30,000 Rand. In 10 years' time, because of inflation, she'll require 71,000 Rand in order to retire. Now, if she wants to pay a premium or save within a bank, she'll have to pay 150,000 Rand for the next 10 years in order to retire with 71,000 Rand. So that's not possible for Ruth because she's not earning 200,000 Rand. But Ruth follows a different method. She has 1,000 Rand and she's going to take responsibility by applying the things that I teach to you tonight. So if you have 1,000 Rand surplus, that is extra money that you have, then, or if you have a capital of 4.8 million. So if you have 4.8 million today and you purchase a property and your yield or your net rent is 10%, then you will have a 480,000 Rand income or a 40,000 per month income. So if Ruth could achieve 4.8 million today, then she'll be in a position to retire today. Everybody still with me? Hope everybody's still with me. Okay, thank you. But Ruth only has 1,000 Rand per month. Now, if Ruth invests 1,000 Rand per month, she will need in 10 years' time 8.5 million. And then she can purchase that property and she can earn an income of that 71,000. So this is her goal. And this is why you need to calculate, because you need a goal. You need something to look at, to aim at. You need an intent. But if she wants to achieve this 8.5 million, she needs to get a growth of 63%. If she can get a growth of 63%, then she'll be able to retire in 10 years' time. And that is what is called my personal growth rate. So Ruth's growth rate, her personal growth rate is 63%. Now, this is important because if you make an investment, you need to determine if that investment is doing better than this, equal to this, or less than this. If it's less than this, it's not going to take Ruth to her goal. If she gets a growth rate of 12%, she's not going to get to her 8.5 million. If she gets a growth rate of 50%, it's not going to take her to her growth rate. So she needs a 63% growth on all her investments or above, and then she'll get to her 8.5 million. If she gets a higher growth rate, if she gets 100% growth, then she'll get to her retirement sooner. And this is why it's important. And I'll be sharing this spreadsheet with you. Right? So that's why you need to do the calculation, because when you do the calculation, and I'll show you when I do a property calculation, how you determine the property's growth rate and why it's important to do the calculation, because you won't be able to determine these things by just looking at the property or at your situation. Now, the next calculation I want to show you is what I call the buyer. Is it better to rent or to buy? You don't have to answer, but I want you to think about now. A lot of my students have seen this already, but it's such valuable that I thought I'd show it again. Is it better to rent or to buy a property? I want you to think about that, and let me show you. So the answer to that is you need to do the calculation. So if you have a 1 million rand property and your interest rate is 12%, and you have a bond of 30 years, your repayment is 10,286 rand. And let's assume your capital growth rate is 5%, which means the appreciation of your property grows in value each year with 5%. And you are going to sell your property in 7 years' time. So after 7 years, with this appreciation of 5%, you will have 1.4 million in value of your property. Now, if you sell your property, in your mind, you make a profit of 400,000 rand. But my question and why you need to do the calculation is, what about the payments that you have already made? Because for 7 years, you've paid 10,286 rand. If that is the case, you've paid back to the bank 864,000 rand. Now, if you calculate the difference between what you think you made and what you have paid is 456,000 rand. So why would, in this scenario, this person's situation be better to purchase a property? Because he's lost 500 and almost 60,000 rand. And I haven't even determined or calculated any commission for the sale of the property and no tax that could be payable. But if and let's turn this to 63, because this is Ruth's situation. But if this person rented this property, they would have a monthly savings, meaning that is what they would have paid, but they only pay 7,000. They have a monthly saving of 3,000 rand. With a regular savings at 12%, even on a regular saving, you'd have 329,000 rand in this case where you were renting. You had a profit, and in this case, you wouldn't have a profit. And if you did not do the calculation, you would not be able to determine which of these two were the better option. It's not to say it's better to rent. The answer is you need to do the calculation in each scenario to determine if it's better to rent or to buy. Now, if this person could apply and get a growth rate of 63%, over a 7-year period, you'd have 4.5 million. So if you can get that growth rate in 7 years, you'll have a 4.5 million instead of a loss of 456,000. Now the same, we can go back to the other spreadsheet. I can go back to the other spreadsheet and just show you if Ruth's surplus is 3286, I believe. Immediately a growth rate becomes less. So she needs to achieve a growth rate of 47% now if she wants to retire with 30,000 rand in 10 years time, because her surplus has increased. So law number 2 is you need to budget, right? So there are 4 main financial obligations when it comes to a property purchase, and some we tend to forget about. So first is the monthly installment, and everybody knows about the monthly installment. You don't need to have a monthly installment, but if you do, you have to pay that. You also have to pay home insurance because your property could burn down, so you need to protect and to limit your risk. And you also need what is called life insurance, because if you have a bond and if you want to transfer that property, even if you don't have a bond, you need to transfer that property to your beneficiaries. So you need money in the form of life insurance to pay for those costs, either for the debt or for the debt and for the transfer costs of the property and your estate. And if you purchase in a sectional title, you will also need to pay levies. So that is also another thing that you need to budget for. And it's important to do these calculations because your budget could be higher than you expected it to be if you don't calculate. So that's law number 2. Law number 3 is to plan for the worst case scenario. Right? So what is the worst case scenario? So if you have made a bond, if you have a mortgage, or if you made a loan, the interest rate can go up to 24%. And you need to plan and determine, how am I going to survive for that year period where the interest rate goes up to 24%. And that is what is called the worst case scenario. And I will show you how and why you need to do the worst case scenario, because this could be detrimental and you can lose your property if you are not able to afford your monthly repayment. So very important rule, you need to plan for the worst case scenario. I've also had questions from students wanting to know, how do you determine if a property is sold by a legit seller, or if the seller is the owner? And I've had an experience where a person wanted to sell me the property, but he wasn't the legitimate owner. He had the keys to the property, but he was not the owner. So you need to determine, and that is law number 4, you need to check if the seller is the owner. You cannot just accept that the people wanting to sell the property to you is the owner, and you need to verify that. And the ways you can do to verify that, and this is rule number 4, is you can either use the municipality. You can ask them who's the owner of that property. You can also ask estate agents, because they have access to the tools to see who the owner previously was and who it is currently. And there's also web tools and websites that you can use to verify who these sellers are. You can even see things like the property, the price they bought it for, and if they have any outstanding bond, which will also assist you in making an offer when you want to purchase a property. Law number 5 is you need to negotiate, right? You need to negotiate. You need to learn to negotiate if you don't know how to. Let me show you the impact of negotiating. Let me show you the impact of negotiating. So here's our R1,000,000 property. You can see my new spreadsheet. You can see. Let me see. Is there anybody that can see the new spreadsheet? You can still hear me. Thank you, Clariska. So if you negotiate an interest rate, so say for instance, the interest rate they want to give you is 12%, but you can negotiate that to 11%. And this is why you negotiate everything as much as possible. Then your payment goes down to 9,523. So your initial payment was 10,286 Rand. Now you negotiate a better interest rate and you get a 9,000 monthly repayment. If now you have a difference or a surplus of 763 Rand. Now, if you use that 763 Rand, you're already willing to pay this. You were willing to pay 10,000 Rand. Now you negotiate a better interest rate, but you keep on paying a 763 Rand extra, or you keep your payment on the 10,000 Rand. You will save yourself 900,000 Rand in interest, and you will pay off your bond 9.6 years earlier by negotiating a 1% better interest rate. So it's in your best interest to negotiate the interest and negotiate everything. You can negotiate the lawyer, you can negotiate such a lot of things, the purchase price, you can negotiate all of those things. So negotiate. And this is why it's important to negotiate. And that's why it's law number 5, right? Law number 6 is write an offer. Now, a property can only be sold if you have an offer to purchase, right? Even the banks won't assist you with a bond if you don't have offer to purchase, and you need to use a conveyancer. This is also what you need to use to sell a property. If you don't use a lawyer, then the property won't be transferred into your name. So don't give somebody the money, because the process is you pay a lawyer that keeps the money, and once the property is transferred in your name, then the money gets paid from the lawyer to the seller. Also, another tip that I can give you, be sure that you have an offer in writing, and also use a conveyancer. You'll need to use a lawyer. And the reason you need to make an offer in writing is because it's a commitment towards the seller. If you just mention the offer to him, he might not take it seriously. And you can also use the offer in order to put a time period which makes him think, okay, if I don't sign this before this period, then this offer is not going to be valid. So there's also a psychological reason why you give either the seller or the agent an offer in writing, and you don't just tell them this is the offer. Now, some tips regard to the offer to purchase. You need a signed offer to purchase a property. It's required for a loan as well. But on this offer to purchase, you have to have an exit strategy. As you can see, there's a lot of intricacies and depth things that we need to discuss, because you need to have an exit strategy. It's important to minimize your risk. You need to specify a time frame for the acceptance of this offer to purchase. And you also need to include any conditions that you want to have to be met. So there have to be certain conditions that you say, this condition has to be met before I purchase this property. And you need to understand this offer to purchase. You need to understand this offer to purchase, because there are consequences of not adhering to the offer to purchase. But this is also why you need to have an exit strategy. And law number 7 is present your offer, and it means you need to take action. Now, the more offers you make, the easier it is going to become. And nothing is going to happen if you stay afraid. And please remember, it will never be perfect. You'll never, and that is what I made as a mistake when I started. I wanted this perfect free property, but it will never be perfect. It will only get perfect the more you practice, the more you practice. Now, as you can see, there's a lot more to the 7 essential laws when purchasing a property. You need to know how to do the calculations. You need to know what are the things you need to budget. You need to know how to plan for the worst case scenario. You need to know how to confirm if the seller is legit. If you don't know how to negotiate, you need a process to teach you how to negotiate. You need to put this offer in writing, and you need to present it to the seller. But we don't have so much time that I can go through all of these. Now, Warren Buffett said the risk comes from not knowing what you are doing, right? The risk comes from not knowing what you are doing. So if you do not know, and because you did not know previously, these are certain laws you need to follow, the risk that you would have made purchasing a property would have been immense, right? Because the risk comes from not knowing what you are doing. Now, who would like to see the 3 biggest secrets to purchase a property with no money, no bank, or no bond? Who wants to see? If nobody wants, it's only Miso, then I can phone Miso alone. No. Who else wants to see the 3 biggest secrets to purchase a property with no money? Thank you. Thank you. There we go. Thank you. So let's show you. Now, the 3 secrets, and I'll go into them in depth. The 3 secrets are: first is do the calculation before you make an offer, right? And I'll show you how I did the calculation on a property, and I'll show you what it meant for me. Choose the right method, and I'll show you the different methods and why you need to choose the right method. And if you find a mentor, you can follow his system and you'll be able to purchase that property for free or for nothing. Now, secret number 1 is how can you save more than 300,000 on a property by not earning a cent more. So I'm going to show you a couple of calculations to show you why it's important and why it's a secret to do the calculation before you make an offer. Back to this. So when you do the calculation and when you understand these tips, you'll be able to save immense amounts of money and even get your property for free. So when you purchase a property of 1 million rand with a 12% interest over a 30-year term, your monthly repayment, as I said, is 10,286 rand. Now, most people do not know this. If you make an immediate payment on your property, so all you do is the day that the property gets registered in your name, not a day later or a month later, as soon as that property gets registered in your name, you make your first payment. Because you would have made a payment to a property, but you make your first payment on the day that the property is registered. If you do that, and you only do that, you save yourself 300,000 rand. Right? So you save yourself 300,007 rand on a property. And you pay off your property 3 or 2.5 years earlier. Right? You pay your property off 2.5 years earlier just by making an immediate payment. So you need to plan and you need to structure your deal so that you make that first payment on the date of registration of your property. Now let's look at a calculation of a property that I had. Let's change this to 450,000. I actually bought it for less than the 500. So because there's 27 variables that affect your property's growth rate, right? So I'm going to show you how to calculate your property's growth rate. So you need to enter all the variables to determine your property's growth rate. You need to determine the purchase price, the market value, the bond, and also a lot of other stuff, the interest rate, the taxes, the rental income. So if I did this calculation on this property, I'm not going to go through all of these. It's going to take too much time. But you enter all the values necessary to make a calculation. You say, save this property and view assessment. And this property is going to have a growth rate. And we're going to determine that of infinite. So this property is what is called a free property. So this is a property that I have purchased where I can show you that the growth on this property that I am getting is infinite, which means it's a free property, meaning that my monthly expenses, there isn't actually monthly expenses. All my rent is covering for my monthly expenses. And because I'm not paying a cent out of my own pocket, this property I'm actually getting for free. And it's all about how you structure and how you do the calculation. But if I couldn't do this calculation, I wouldn't have known if this property was a property to purchase or not. So and this is why I say it's a secret. So if you start and if you want to purchase a property, but you're not able to calculate the growth on your property, how do you know that it will satisfy your goal or your personal growth rate? So unless you can calculate this growth rate, you won't be able to determine if it's a good property for you or if it's not a good property for you. And this is why it's important for you to do the calculation. But I want to show you the worst case scenario because I remember I explained to you that you need to do the worst case scenario and also plan for it. Now, the worst case is that the interest rate. So the worst case is the interest rate, and I showed you can be 24%. Because that is what happened in the past, and it can happen again. Don't believe that it's not possible. So if this is the case, if the interest rates went up to 24%, then I need to pay out of my pocket a 3,300 rand. So that is my expense going to be when interest rate goes up. So if I'm not able to pay this amount at least for 1 year, so if I haven't planned for the worst case for at least a year, then I won't be able, and I will lose this property if interest rates go that high. And this is why it's important, and this is why I made it a law, because you need to determine what is the worst that can happen, and am I willing to go through that worst case? Am I willing to accept the worst case? Am I willing to spend this 3,000 Rand for a year? If I'm not, then I shouldn't be purchasing this property. Secret number 2 is there's alternative ways to purchase a property without using the banks. I put a big disclaimer at the bottom because remember I said at the beginning you need to have this new mindset. And the only way you'll be able to purchase a property with these methods, firstly, you need to know of them, but you need to believe that it is possible. If you think it's not possible to do it, you won't be able to do it. So you'll need a specific skill set if you want to purchase a property this way, right? You have something called vendor finance. So vendor finance is when the seller finances the property deal. So he pays for the property. But if you have the skill, if you can negotiate, if you can come to an agreement, there are sellers willing to pay for your property and you ultimately pay them back. You can also do what's called a rent to own or rent to buy option, where you purchase a property, but by renting this property, you purchase this property with certain terms and conditions. You also get what is called an installment sale, where you purchase a property with installments, with a certain number of installments. You can also purchase a property. And these are without the use of any banks. You can use an equity partner to purchase a property, and you can also use private investors. But as you can see, you'll need a different set of skills to purchase this property. But remember what Albert Einstein said, you cannot solve your problem with the same level of thinking. And this is why we don't know of these things initially, because it's not in the interest of the banks to teach us these things. There's also another way, and I didn't add it here. You can also use a business to purchase your property. So you can start a business with nothing, with no money, and you use that business to purchase the property for you. And that is actually secret number 3. So you can start a business with no money. A business is normally something that solves a problem. And when you start a business, choose a business that you are passionate about, right? Choose something that you really love. You start a business with no money and you use that money to purchase a property. And if you do it this way, if you start a business and it costs you nothing to start a business, and if you make that R1 million worth of property and you purchase that property with that R1 million, then it didn't cost you a cent to purchase the property. Because you need to remember, you need as I said, when you open your mind to understanding these concepts, because a lot of people think if I purchase a property that I need to use money. You don't need to use your own money. You can start a side business and make that business successful and purchase a property with that business. And if you do that, you're actually purchasing this property costing you nothing because you didn't use your own money. The other way is not having a business. And I showed you the calculations. If you don't have a business, you need to do those calculations I just showed you and the worst case scenario. Now, if you do it this way, you'll require more skills. You need to be able to do the calculation. You need to negotiate. It'll take more time, but it's also possible to purchase a property that costs you nothing by not having a business. Now, where do you start? You might ask. So Warren Buffett says risk comes from not knowing what you are doing. So you need to start with investing in yourself. And that is what you guys did tonight. You need to invest in yourself to start seeing the opportunities and to start to realize that these things are possible to achieve if I follow a system or a process or a recipe. Now, before I go on, to the special offer. There's private schools and varsity, and the varsity, and I went to varsity or university, and the cost of those places, and this is the most expensive school I could find a couple of months back in South Africa, was 199,000 rand per annum. And they don't teach you what I have taught you tonight. You wouldn't have known what I have. I believe most of you would not have known a lot that I have spoke to you about tonight, right? And there's also schools and varsities and universities, and they don't teach you these important systems and processes and how to save 300,000 rand on a property. And I want you to think why. Now I am, and I want to be, and I want to play open cards with everybody. I have the information and I have the knowledge and the wisdom regarding how to purchase a property and what are the steps you need to follow. But I haven't created any course as of yet in order to assist you step by step on how to purchase a property. And because I haven't created that course yet, and because you are the first people that are hearing of it, I do have a special offer or a special price, and it's only going to be for tonight until next week, Wednesday, 3 o'clock. So because I only have the idea currently and I have the skills and the knowledge, I'm willing to offer up my time if there are people that wants to learn how to do it in order to teach you and get to a point where you can purchase a property that won't cost you a cent. Or if you want to use the banks, it's fine, but we structured it that way that it costs you as little as possible. Now, the special offer is as follow. So I will be creating this in a course. I will create a video course where I take you step by step of how to purchase a property, going through all the 7 essential laws. I will provide you with a checklist. I already told you about the checklist that you will receive, everybody that is here tonight and that stayed until now. I will provide you with that calculator that I showed you, a growth calculator. I'll also provide you with an offer to purchase that I do have. But I want to tell you to please understand the offer to purchase. Even though I provide you with one, please understand it and speak to the lawyer who is assisting you in order so that you can just understand what you are putting yourself into when it comes to property. I will even provide with you with, if you stay close by, a physical consultation, but also virtually, I'll be assisting you. If you have any questions, if you, whatever the case might be, you can ask me anything. I will also do some of these calculations because that program that I have, I paid a lot of money for, and I'll provide you with a link if you want to pay for that as well. It's an excellent course and it's excellent, but I'll also do some of the calculations for you because I know that is pricey in order to purchase that program. But I'll also add in the identity goals course. Now the identity goals course, and some of my students here has done it. And those of you that has done it, I'll give you a discount on this because you've already purchased. For all of you who have already purchased, I'm going to give a discount on top of this discount. But the identity goals course teaches you how to achieve your goals, starting from I don't know how to set a goal. I don't have a dream anymore. So I teach you how to set a goal. I also started a business course to teach you how to start a business with no money, which I spoke about. The one I spoke about here, you can start a business that purchases your property. So I also created, so that is already in working. It's not completed yet. I think there's 4 lessons, but I'm adding a lesson a week. I'm trying to stick to a lesson a week. So it will teach you how to go from nothing and start a business to start making profit without any money. The identity goals course is just for you to achieve whatever you want to achieve and set the goals the right way. And I'm also going to test. I do have weekly webinars like this for the inner circle for all the students. Also, I'm going to add a WhatsApp group. So I want to show people how I go about looking for a property, how I solve the problems of a property, and how I'm going to purchase a property by not using the banks. So I wanna guide you and show you the process, maybe make videos, post in the group. You can ask questions. You can tell me this is the property you want to buy and we can discuss. But I want to test this. Is something that I will test If it works, then we'll keep it open. If it doesn't work, then I'll just provide you with the other things, the weekly webinar, everything. And it could cost you, if I do it everything separately, if you bought everything separately, it will cost you 20,000 Rand. But for today only, or if you let me know by the end of Wednesday next week, I'm going to give it to you for 1,750. So this is for my time, my expertise, and to understand how property works in order for you to be able to purchase a property that costs you nothing. So I believe the value of purchasing a property that costs you nothing is way more than even 20,000 Rand. But that's just me. Just the fact that I showed you how you can save 300,000 Rand is more valuable. Even I would say if I asked you 20,000 Rand to teach you how to save that 300,000 Rand, it will still have been, sorry, a bargain. But I'll also give you a 30-day guarantee. So if you're not satisfied, you can return. No, you won't return the product, but you can tell me that you don't find value in it, and I'll provide a full refund. But there's a catch to that. Only if you can show me that you applied, because I'll be able to check if you've done the lessons. And if I give homework or I want a question answered, you need to show me that you've done the homework and you've applied it. So if you've done that and after 30 days you're not satisfied, then I'll give you a full refund. Now, just a last summary. Everybody will receive the checklist, the calculator, that video of how to pay off your debt as quickly as possible, and I'll provide you with some books of my mentor that I would highly recommend. But for everybody who would like all the rest, the videos, how to purchase a property, the WhatsApp Insiders group, and the other courses, for today, it's 1,750 Rand. Thank you for each and everybody that came out tonight. I just wanted to show you a couple of testimonials that I've received. So one of the students said, my biggest learning curve was how small steps towards your goal pays off in the end. The lesson about a perfect day opened my eyes how effective minuscule steps are in inching closer towards my identity goal. So this is the course. Those actions give me confidence in my abilities, in knowing what I'm implementing today will pay off in the end. Another client said, and this one I needed to move. That's the same one. We delete this. There we go. Other one said, I went with the flow of everyday life, but now I know I can plan for success and be intentional with my days. And this is also in regards to the Identity Goals course. I want to see changes in my life. I like to start a business and want to become financially free. So I was concerned, they said, that it would be difficult, but it's actually plain and simple. And then I decided to take responsibility for my life. And I figured that if I want to change my life, I would have to change my life. I feel like I am more in control now, and I am the captain of my ship. That is my life. My life plan and plans will go in the direction that I want it to go. And the last one is I will be finishing lesson 2 by the end of the business day. I had a perfect day on Sunday and it felt very good. But what I learned was that I had the will to want to win on Saturday evening, but also tell myself that I can feel that following day will be good, and it was. So your work is already doing wonders. So this is just some thank you for the testimonial, guys. I do appreciate, but this is some of the testimonials that I have received so far. So are there any questions? I think my final thought would just be, and it's what this person said here, is that you have the responsibility in your hands, and you have what it takes to achieve whatever you want, whether it is purchasing a property, whether it is investing in property, whether it is purchasing a property for no money. But and what I've given you tonight, with all I've given you tonight, it is going to take, if you want to do it on your own, you can go out and you can go and research and make the mistakes that I made, and you'll also be able to achieve what I achieved. It's just going to take longer. It's going to take some blood, sweat, and tears and some mistakes that I've made. So it's not impossible to do it that way. It's just going to be longer, and you're going to have to be willing to learn. But if you want to negate the mistakes that I made, if you want to learn from my mistakes, if you want me to show you step by step, and if you want me to show you a system, then I do have that option where you can purchase that option. And yes, then I'll be able to assist you in purchasing your own property, costing you next to nothing. But it all depends on you. But thank you so much. Are there any questions? That anybody learned something today? Was it valuable? Did you learn something? Nobody have a question. I will be sending out an email afterwards. I think, and I'm thinking if I should give everybody access to the identity goals, because I feel it's so important. But I want to see commitment. So if you want the identity goals, you need to send me an email or WhatsApp. I think in the email I'll send you my WhatsApp number. You can also get hold of me there. So if you are interested in the special offer, please do let me know. Please let me know, and I can assist you to purchase a property, and we can go in depth. Was tonight valuable? No questions. It doesn't seem that anybody has a question tonight. Maybe I spoke too much. How long did we? Just over 12. Okay, so doesn't seem like there's any questions for tonight. Thank you so much for everybody tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful evening and keep well, stay safe. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Clariska and thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.